All right, you're all set.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to PRAC committee meeting. This is Thursday, April 28th, 2022. It's currently 7 p.m. And to start off with our introduction of our PRAC members, Steve Williams, you want to say hi to everybody? Wave at us so we know who you are.
Good evening.
All right, and Ken.
Hello, everybody.
And we have Andy Crump.
Hello.
And Karen Morey.
And Karen is here.
And I am your chair, Troy Bollinger. First item is the approval of our minutes from the March 24th, 2022 meeting. Any questions or motion on approval?
This is Karen. I move that we approve the minutes as distributed.
I'll second.
Okay, that's Karen.
Give your name for the minutes,
Oh,
please.
sorry. Ken Worcester, and I'll second.
Yeah, and I can always do that too. That's Karen with the motion and Ken Worcester with the second. Do we have any discussion? I see none. So Justin, go ahead and pull for us.
All right, Karen Morey,
Aye.
Andy Crump,
Aye.
Steve Williams,
Aye.
Troy Bollinger,
Aye.
and Cam Worcester.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, public comment time, Justin and or Kendall. Do we have anyone that's requested to speak to us at this point? For the
We do
public
not.
comment? Okay. And then we'll move forward to our presentation. First, we're going to hear from, now, pardon me if I mess this up, but Nile, is it Nile Bat? Did I say that right?
Absolutely did.
Wow, and that's even recorded that I got that right. Good. And then we've got Jason Elsalde.
Elsalde, but he actually had to go in for some surgery today, so Jason will not be joining.
Okay, so
He
since
loves
he's
Oregon
not
City
here,
very much, but he's recuperating right now from the hospital.
okay, well, that's fair. And since he's here, it will not be on record that I messed up his name, right? Because he's not present. So I think that's how that
If you
works.
didn't
So,
hear it, it did happen. Yeah.
okay, good. So Nile is here to speak to us from Pros Consulting about the Parks Master Plan. So Nile, it's all you.
Wonderful. May I share my screen if that's okay?
Yes, I made you a co-host, so you should be good to
Okay.
go.
Thank you. All righty. So, well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for making the time and the opportunity to interview and initially with the group and now to present to you all about the plan. My name is Nilay Bhatt. I am the principal with Pros Consulting, the lead consultant on this. In other words, I am the throat that Kendall can choke if something goes wrong. But I want to share a little bit more about just the process, our firm, the experience, and let's take you through some of the key outcomes as well. As community leaders, as individuals, I will be speaking with to get a sense of your vision and your needs for this master plan as well. So as we responded to the RFP, spoke with Kendall and the team, the outcomes that we really looked at from this were maximizing engagement from your community, but in an inclusive and innovative manner, looking at a wide variety of data sources, best practices from around the country. We're based in Indianapolis, but we do this all over the place. So that's a lot of the value that we bring in. Level of service standards for a city your size. I really can't think of too many places that have everything from an RV park to a cemetery to a senior center to the variety of offerings you have, right? So that's really, really cool. But what is that level of service standard to establish to one, build, but to maintain and operate going forward? Which gets me to the next point in terms of financial and operative preparation, right? It's not just about building new things. Our focus is also on sustainability, is what can you afford to build, operate, maintain? And as you're looking at changing, growing, expanding things, the commensurate staffing support that has to go with that as well. And ultimately, look, the goal, this is not a one-year plan. This is a long-term plan and a vision. I will tell you a lot of the plans we did at the end of 2019 were fairly obsolete literally 3 months later as the pandemic hit. So what we want to ensure in a lot of these cases is that this is a living, breathing document that you can evolve and adapt as things change, and as we know it will change. So according to all of you, are these still the right outcomes that you want to get out of the plan? Thumbs up, yes, no, head nods. Okay, good. Otherwise, I was going to say thank you. Have a nice evening. I'm done with the presentation. So, but anyways, our team, we're based in Indianapolis. We've done this all over the country. We have offices in Arizona, in Texas. We've staff in California as well. I've personally done this for about 16 years now, close to 200 master plans. And I worked for Disney, the Olympics, and the Super Bowl as well. So I've sort of combined the best of the guest experience side, the Parks and Rec planning side as well. And then I organize, curate, and coach TED Talks and TEDx speakers and all that. So really incorporate a lot of the storytelling too as a part of our work. So, this is, again, our staff, Jason, who's with me, actually worked for the Willamette Lane Park District. So he lived in Oregon for over 15 years as well. We've got someone who's lived there, worked for a gold medal agency for several years before he moved to Indianapolis to join pros. Along with us, we also have ETC Institute. This is a survey and a data specialist firm. So this is all they do is park system master plan surveys in multiple languages. We've done a ton of them, over 450 of those in English, Spanish, and multiple other languages. And they will conduct the statistically valid survey as a part of this plan. That's the one tool more than anything else that's going to give you defensible and representative data of your community members balanced for race and ethnicity, gender, income levels, ages, all of that. So truly a representation of your community. Just some examples, as I mentioned, these are just all the different places our team's been fortunate to work on and work with, from Allentown, Pennsylvania to Anchorage, Alaska, and everything in between. So part of our goal, as we talk to Kendall as well, is looking at obviously Oregon City now with CAPRA, which is national accreditation, as well as the gold medal, right? Some aspirational goals as a part of this process. And we've been fortunate to work with a high percentage of those accredited agencies, as well as gold medal park and rec systems across the country. I've also been on the board of the National Recreation and Park Association for several years. And so in many ways, we're helping shape the future of Parks and Rec in the country, and would love to help bring some of those practices, those learnings specifically over to you as well. So in terms of the process, right, as we think of this larger planning process, I really break it down into 3 major stages. Where are we today? Where are we going to go? How will we get there? A lot of our work is going to be in the first phase, assessing where you are currently. You all and your community are really going to drive the second phase in terms of where you want the city to go. In addition to that, demographic shifts, recreation trends are things we will help add in. 6 years ago, for the first time, I heard of a sport called pickleball. Now it's one of the fastest growing sports in the country, right? So these are the kinds of things, who knows what it's going to be in the future as well. But these are some of the trends and elements that we obviously want to keep in mind. And the last phase, this is where all of you, us, the staff, everyone sort of comes together in terms of prioritization of the needs, funding, as well as the ultimate strategic action plan. So that's the visioning process that brings together all the findings, all the assessments, to then say, if that's what it is, what does the future look like for Parks and Recreation within the city for the next 5, 10, 15 years? Questions, comments, thoughts so far? Can I just keep going, Kendall? Is that okay? Troy? Yes? Okay. So just a quick outline. Obviously, we started this off. We had a virtual kickoff with Kendall and the team. We're planning on site visits end of May, early June, and really get the process going. We've got, for now, a 12 to 15 month window. I know Kendall's had a larger timeline built in, If we need to, we can expand, but that's really where our goal is to do it right and not just check a box. We don't want to do it fast, we want to do it right. So it starts all with the community, and over the last 2 years especially, we've adapted and added a lot more tools so that we can physically and philosophically go where people are. So number of key leader meetings, starting with all of you, the council, the staff, stakeholders, user groups, community groups, all those interviews will happen as a combination of in-person or virtual as well. But in addition to that, we build multilingual, mobile-friendly, and ADA accessible websites. What you see on the left is the one that was built for the City of Atlanta's master plan. This was called Activate ATL, which was the branding and the theme that they wanted to have. On the right, what you see is an app called Happy Feet that was built specifically for the master plan for people to give input, but now continues to provide feedback throughout the park system. You're going to be the first agency in the entire Pacific Northwest to actually have this. So that's really, really cool that Oregon City gets to be the first one actually doing something like this, to have both an ADA accessible website, but also an app to have people share feedback throughout the master plan and beyond. Along with that, these are multilingual, one click of a button, could be in multiple different languages as needed. And as we think in terms of survey processes, this is the ETC survey I was talking about. This will give you a really good sense whether it is in terms of bond and referendum support, to barriers to participation, to how would people want to communicate, you to communicate with them, or how do they learn about what you're offering? If they had $100, how would they want to prioritize spending that the city can do as well? So these are all the kinds of questions that we'll work with you to develop after we've done the initial public input process. So the things we hear from the community can be engaged and interacted and dropped into the survey process. We'll have an online survey similar to this too, that will also be through SurveyMonkey on the website. And then the analysis and combination of all this leads to these pieces, right? So this is a level of service inventory I referenced. Let's look at all that you as a city offer, but also what do other service providers offer, right? Whether it's looking at school districts, other comparable providers. So ultimately, based on your population, you will get a sense of where or how much are the needs that exist if you do nothing today and 5 or 10 years from now. This gives you a sense of quantity. When I add to that is what we call equity maps. This will give you a sense of gaps in distribution. So this is where every one of the amenities you have are going to be mapped. So now it becomes really easy in this map for you to see where you have pickleball courts and where there are gaps, which is pretty much the rest of the city. On the other hand, you can look at something like this and say, we are significantly over-serving multiple areas and duplicating the efforts. Maybe we should be looking at other places and divesting or repositioning what we have. So it's going to give you all a very transparent and a defensible tool to not just understand how much of what you need for the future, but also where in the city they might go as you look at the different park, trail, playground, sports courts, sports fields, offerings, and so on as well. All this put together then gets to the final outcomes, which are starting with the values and the vision mission, having a good understanding of who you are, what you want to be known for now and going forward, and then using that to create the priorities. So this is what the survey will help provide as well, are the high, medium, and low priorities based on a scientific and defensible process for facility amenities, as well as for programs. So the combination of all of these, along with the maps I just showed you, ultimately leads to something like this. Right? These are custom-built action plans that tie in goals, values, and so on, but to key strategic action items, as well as timeframes and responsibilities. Ultimately, I believe that what gets measured gets done. And so this creates a tool for accountability that you can see at any time for what are the short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, and then tying that to funding as a part of the final implementation plan. All this put together becomes your actual master plan document, driving with demographics and trends, adding public input and surveys, our analysis, the level of service and equity maps, and ultimately the living, breathing action plan with strategies, tactics for short, mid, and long term. So that in a nutshell is the entire planning process. I was given about 15 minutes. Here we are at 15 minutes, and I'm open to your questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Anybody, by the show of hands, any member of PrAC here have any questions? Karen, I see your hand up. If you would go ahead.
Yeah, my question would be, we sort of started into this with a exaggerated deferred maintenance plan. Is deferred maintenance just a given in here? I don't really see it called out. This looks very current and future driven, and I am very impressed with what you've presented tonight. But does this also take the deferred maintenance into consideration?
Yeah, good question. Absolutely does. And in fact, Kendall had briefed me on all these different planning tools that you've got going on in advance as well. So looking at marketing communications, looking at deferred maintenance, cost of service, all of those. So our goal is to weave those into this overall master plan document. So when you look at the capital improvement program, what the level of service is going to provide are exactly like you said, the future developments. What your deferred maintenance is going to give us are things that are existing that need to be improved, enhanced, or fixed in some way, shape, or form. So your ultimate implementation is going to be the combination of first, take care of what you got. Second, add, expand, or build new. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Ken, go ahead.
Okay, when you talk about your level of service standards, so you're going to focus on kind of the existing and kind of, which establishes kind of the baseline, right? Correct? And then so in my opinion, there's probably 2 or 3 different ways you can go with level of service standards. There's existing that you definitely don't want to go backwards as the city grows. There's kind of aspirational, which usually is based on probably NRPA standards. And how do you plan to kind of, I guess, meld the two together? Because if you look at a lot of the NRPA standards, the size standards, say for a community park versus a neighborhood park and things like that, they're not realistic in places like Oregon City, where we have, topographical challenges, just space in general, compared to say Kansas City or someplace that's flat and open. So how do you try to develop that? So you have an aspirational standard based on survey or based on NRPA standards?
Yeah, I don't use NRPA standards at all, actually.
Okay.
Because to your point, 15 or 20 acres per 1,000 people in the Midwest is so easy. Mm-hmm. 5 acres per 1,000 where you are is very hard. So it creates an artificial median because I'm taking everything across the country in one data set versus it's the ETC survey data of your community is what we use to establish the recommendation. So the piece that gets added to our recreation trends, right, that we see generally in the last several years, we've seen diamond sports flatline or reduce, but I've seen multi-purpose rectangular sports grow, right? So lacrosse was one of the fastest growing sports. Right. Flag football has gotten better. Rugby started getting bigger as well. Soccer's there and so on, for example. Now, tennis and golf went up significantly in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. So pickleball's continued to grow. So just as an example, So those are the recreation trends that we will get data specific to Oregon City for recreation trends. On top of that, then the survey that we will get from your community, usually those are the two we use to create recommended standards. So it's not national, frankly, it's not even statewide, because the Portland metro area versus the rest of the state, again, has very different sort of standards, density of population, all the rest. So it's going to be very much sort of localized to your community and trends with that as well.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then I have one more, Troy, if that okay? So also, then you're familiar with impact fees, and in Oregon, they're called systems development charges. And so I'm assuming you're reasonably familiar with Oregon, how the Oregon law works and when those fees were developed. And you kind of have to establish kind of that level of service back when those fees were actually enacted. And then you can, that's where the level of service is so important versus the aspirational.
Yes.
And so what can we charge future growth for that we can't necessarily just charge them because we want to? That
Yes.
it has to be a true impact to the existing standard. And I think that's why there's actually maybe 2 or 3 different layers of level of service standards. And one would go back to 1991 when the SDC laws were made park fees eligible. Is that?
Yeah. And I say the same thing for all of our California projects, right? They've got Quimby, and it's a 5 acre per 1,000 standard, which is where, again, back to your point with impact fees. So yes, again, we're aware of it. This is going to be obviously a back and forth iterative dialogue with y'all. So if we do recommend XYZ standard, what is that impact on your level of service, and thus the impact fees you can charge going forward, right? So
right.
Yes, no, aware of that, mindful of it, and it's just going to have to be a conversation at that time to see if this, then what impact will that have?
Thanks. I'll be quiet for a while.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Nilay? Okay, Ken, you said for a while. Does that mean you have more questions for Nilay, or are you done with this, with the master plan?
Well, I guess kind of a general question, and I'm not sure if it is for Nilay or maybe for somebody else for staff, but is an SDC update included in the master plan, or is that something that'll be happening after the master plan is adopted?
We're going to do that after the master plan. It's still part of the plan to get that done this biennium, but we're going to wait till we get the master plan completed.
Okay, thanks, Kendall.
Karen, did you have another one?
Yeah, I just realized we didn't clarify. Is this an informational item, or does this need to be an action item?
It's
Do we need a
informational.
motion?
It's informational, Karen.
Okay,
Yep.
just to clarify on the minutes.
Is that it for you, Karen? I assume so. Okay. Steve, go ahead, please.
Yes, that's
I,
good, sorry.
Not a direct question, but I'm certainly glad Ken is here to understand all the acronyms I heard in the last few minutes of the presentation. I may need a sheet, if possible, to help me understand all of the acronyms that I'm not familiar with.
And my apologies, I should have been better about that. So yes, I will. Yeah.
Do you want to? Can you give them a quick one? NRPA.
Yeah. So that's the National Recreation and Park Association. So that's the governing, if you would, the main association for park and recreation agencies. They're based in Ashburn, Virginia, but they're usually the ones driving research, policies, guidelines for 10 to 12,000 agencies all over the country. And then CAPRA, which is the accreditation one, that is the Commission for the Accreditation of Park and Recreation Agencies. So they are under the NRPA, the National Rec and Park Association's umbrella.
Thank you.
Okay, so Nilay, I've got a couple. When you were answering Ken's question, you talked about trends. That's a question I had, but I think you addressed that well. And I'm going to assume you had mentioned some of the up and coming sports, but we have a park here that has an excessive amount of horseshoe pits, which served a wonderful purpose many, many years ago when they held national championships right here in Oregon City. However, a fenced off area for, I don't know, what is it, 24 pits, I don't know, is applies to us anymore. So I assume those trends, you're going to look at what's going down. I would hate to build something, even if it's popular today, that's trending downward and in 5 years may be obsolete at that point, right? So I assume you're looking in both directions on that.
Yeah, I mean, sad but true. I don't recommend roller hockey anymore.
Good point.
For the same reasons, right? So I think that's part of where the strategic element of this master plan comes in, is y'all are going to have to decide what to do and also what not to do going forward, right? So it is a zero-sum game. Your resources are finite. The needs and wants are sometimes not. And so to that point, we've seen this in several cases where they have overbuilt XYZ amenity and are repositioning that to something else. Case in point, unused, underused, actually horseshoe pits and bocce in one of the agencies I'm working with are being repositioned to pickleball, possibly, right? Or underused basketball courts are being restriped for concrete futsal type places as well. So yes, to your point, I think that will also be a consideration to say, hey, these are great, you need to add them here. These have not been used as much, and maybe what will be positioned to be used heavier in the future should replace the kind of stuff that used to be popular but is now obsolete.
Perfect, thank you. And in my day job, I work with software systems and websites and such, so we are continually looking at ADA compliance. However, I'm just in what I deal with my customers, most people look at me when I say ADA compliance for a website and they wonder how we can do ramps and wide doors on a website, right? Because we're thinking physical things. So if you could just maybe take even 30 or 60 seconds to explain maybe to the public who doesn't understand what is ADA compliance on a website.
Yeah. Actually, you would be better off than me to do that. But so I think generally in the last couple of years, as we think in terms of additional inclusion as well, right? That's where Google's algorithms are getting updated too. So a year from now, websites that are not ADA compliant will get dinged. Besides it being the right thing to do, you just won't be found. But again, as a part of that, if you also look on the ADA website, they provide a number of guidelines from those that may be visually or visibly impaired to those that may have certain formats. So documents that we upload there are all PDF only. We don't have Flash, which is again a kind of sort of video-based integration tool in there too. Certain words that we're using as well have to be specifically provided based on what they have. And it's based on responsive design. So it's going to adapt to the kind of device you use, whether it's your smartphone, your tablet, or your laptop, in order to access the website as well. So our team will be able to tell you much more detail than I will, but those are at a higher level things that we are intentional about designing the website from the very beginning. And Troy, I'm welcome to add more as well for the group's info if you'd like to.
I think that's good. Just an overview, because like I say, most people, think of ADA as physical things on the street or the building or whatnot. So yeah, it's things like eliminating flash, videos that move too fast for somebody with a disability to kind of catch the information. Sometimes it's the size of the text that might, it can't be too small. And whenever you're receiving or using rather government money or tax dollars, then these are required, where you may go to a private business and find a much more flashy website with pictures and fireworks and sparklers and all that. And that's because they can do kind of what they want in that area. But when you're using taxpayer dollars, you have to comply to these they're not restrictions, but these requirements to make sure everybody can get a similar experience from visiting. So that's kind of what that gives. But I know a lot of people don't know what that is. So I think it was good to have on record.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I have, and Kendall, this might be just for you. I don't know how much Nile will be involved in this piece, but as I was hearing this question that came up to me is the cost recovery, because I know we've done the cost recovery plan and what services, we do provide and don't provide, and maintaining some equity. Is that something, Kendall, that Nile will have kind of embedded in his plan, or is that something that you're going to do after the fact?
No, that'll be part of our plan.
Okay.
We're a little bit ahead of the game with that, but we're going to be sharing that information with Nile, and it's going to be incorporated into the plan.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have. It looks like we have no other questions. Nile, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all, and look forward to meeting you very soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. So next we have Kevin Garand. Did I say that right?
Yes, you
I tell
did.
you, I'm really getting the names tonight. Like we don't have any Jim Smiths speaking to us tonight, so I'm glad I got that right. And Kevin, you're with SmartRec Software Transition, or with the transition that you have with us.
Exactly. So I work for the company is called Amelia. We call the software SmartRec. And same again. If you guys are ready, I can just take it away, start showing my screen. A little
Please do.
something for you. Justin, I will need you here.
Yeah, you should be co-host, or I made Kendall. Never mind. Kevin. There we go. Now you should be able to share.
Thank you so much. Perfect. So like I was saying, guys, working for Amelia, the software is called SmartRec. What it is, it's the new registration software that people will be able to register online for their activity. What's different from the previous one right now? It's simplified, and everything will be on the same basically software. So people will potentially, they could be able to buy at the same time goggle for the pool, book an RV spot, and possibly a Tai Chi class for the Pioneer Center, all in one transaction. And they will have all one account that will have all the billing, all the invoices under the same account over here. So let's circle back quickly. So far, I've been dealing a lot with Kendall, Melissa, all the team from the park, Pioneer Center, and the aquatics. Williams was part of the sales process. Maybe you met him, or he was not able to be on the call today. And I'm implementation consultant at Amelia. So I'm really here to support the training, the transition, and the implementation of the software with Melissa. So this is a project timeline. Sorry, I need to move you around my screen, guys. Just a quick overview. Basically, we started this project early April. We're already almost in May, where we are on schedule right now. So we just passed the halfway mark about the training. So right now the plan is to soft launch the registration software on May 13 for the camp only, and then on May 20 for the aquatic summer swimming lessons. So there's a lot of resource that we give to your team to make sure the transition is smooth and they know how to use the software. So during implementation, I have a total of 14 hours of online training, online consultation with the group. I'm a direct point of contact, so email, phone, at any time I'm there for them. I have also weekly meeting just to talk about the general project to make sure we stay on track. And then during and after implementation, all the team have access to a demo account, so they can do all the testing if they want, get creative if their software if needs be, and then so none of your official software basically gets messed up, right, for your citizen. We have online learning management system for videos for them. I send them the recording of our session that can be available for anyone. And we also have a knowledge-based article, basically any answers that people might get about configuration or how to help the client. Usually the answer is in there. And after implementation, they will have access to a customer care team that are there 9 to 7 Eastern time. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, right here. They're available for via chat, email, and phone as well for any technical issue or configuration question once we're done with the implementation process. So let me show you just a quick overview of the software. I'm going to take one of another district that we work with, Monongalia. They are in Wisconsin, I believe. So this is the facility booking page where people are basically renting the facilities from baseball field to the camp or anything. For you guys, mostly the first plan is to go with the campground and then the RV park, right? So this is what it looks like for them. Eventually we can move all of that online and book or overnight stay. I have to move you around again. And in real time, we basically have all the availability out there. Online facility booking is only one feature that we have. We obviously have a lot right now. This is what your store look like. Obviously, we're building it every day. We're adding more stuff in there. But just a quick overview for the summer swim lesson. This is what it will look like. All the information were input in there for everyone to know what's going on. Week one, or session one, I should say, here with all the different categories for the level. And then we go down to the activity where the price is displayed based if I'm a resident or not a resident, and all the information is there. We also have some barrier in there. So even if someone watching this right now on YouTube and tried to register for the activity, it wouldn't work because we closed the registration process. It's not open yet. So the software is pretty much complete. I want to say that if we're not the best, we're definitely up there for a lot of functionality. A lot of Parks and Recs turn to us now for the online registration system. We're pretty advanced, and we work as well with the clients in an agile mode, meaning that if you guys need something for the future, our product team is more than welcome to hear from you, and maybe we can build something that might be liking. But so far we have everything and more that you need. And the team actually is pretty excited as we can implement a lot of stuff that you were not able to do in the past, such as multiple discount based on number of child per family and all of that. So that's pretty much it for me. That was nice and quick from me. So I'll open the floor for any question for now.
Any questions for Kevin? Steve, please go ahead.
You mentioned the customer service reps. One of the challenges that I always find in using these kinds of systems is I get to a certain point and then I need to ask a question of someone. They always direct me to a chat room. Sometimes I find those a bit less than useful at times. What option is someone going to have to be able to talk to somebody to answer their question, or is that available?
Yeah, for sure. So if you have any question regarding the activity itself, right, you guys are still going to go through your employees at the aquatics or at the Pioneer Center, right? If
Good.
you have question on Earth side, obviously, so let me just show you quickly. We have this website that is available that you will be able to find a link and the user help center where how do I log in to Amelia? How do I navigate through all of that? How do I manage my account member? So when I say that, if you're willing to do the digging, we have all of the answers for you on this knowledge base that is there for 24/7 basically. Other than that, we have, like I said, email, chat, support. The chat is not available for a citizen trying to register for the activity. It's mostly, we do have the phone or the email though. So I'm not sure if I really answered your question here. So feel free to follow up with another one.
So Steve, this isn't going to take the place of face-to-face customer service, being able to talk to somebody on the phone. This is going to better help us serve our customers who like to do automation, get access to information quickly. They will have that option, but we will still have the option to call in, to come in if needed, or to get that service that they need or answer any questions. Even if they need us to register them for a program or a service, they'll still have that as an option.
Thank you. Appreciate the answer.
Thank you, Kendall.
Any other questions for Kevin? Kevin, thank you very much for that report and that update. Appreciate it.
Not a problem at all.
So we have Akila Hurd-Ravitch. I hope I got that one right too. Did I do okay?
Oh, you were like batting 9 for, I don't know. Sorry, I don't have a good baseball analogy. 9 out of 10. Aquila
That's
Hurd.
not too bad. That's
Aquila
not too bad.
Hurd. Yeah.
So,
Very cool.
so Akila's here to talk to us about the 2021 Heritage Tree nomination. So it's all you.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, my name's Aquila Hurd-Ravitch. I'm the Community Development Director. And I've got a PowerPoint I'll share with you to walk through the Heritage Tree nominations. And can I can share. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. I don't know. I don't actually know how to get rid of this piece right here. Oh, how about I click on that and then I'll make that big. Okay, there we go. Great. Okay. All right, so the purpose of this topic is to review the Heritage Tree process and then discuss, I will review the Heritage Tree nominations on City Park property, and then the PRAC, the committee, the Park and Recreation Committee will need to discuss and provide an advisory opinion. And I'll go over the next steps for the Heritage Tree nominations as well. So first, I apologize, I forgot to thank you for having me. And this is my first time at PRAC, so I'm happy to be here and meet everybody. And this is my first time going through the Heritage Tree process, and I have a feeling that you all may know this better than me, but we'll go through it together. So it is a voluntary process on public and private property. And the way it works is that a resident of Oregon City makes a nomination, and they do that by submitting an application to the planning department along with any supplemental materials. Our staff then review that and look to make sure that all the required materials are there, and then kind of process it from there. And so any trees that are nominated that are on city parks, they first come to your committee, the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee, for an advisory opinion. The next stop is for the Natural Resource Committee to review all of the nominations. And then finally, their recommendation is moved on to the City Commission, who will vote to approve or deny the nominations. There are criteria for the designation. There are 4 criteria, and at least one of them has to be met in the nomination. So the criteria are basically that the tree or stand of trees are associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the history of Oregon City. The tree or stand of trees is associated with the life of a person or group of historic significance. And they may represent a significant or distinguishable presence, or they have an age or size or species that contributes to our city's heritage status. There's also criteria for site and condition. And so one of them is that the trees are not listed as an invasive species. And the other is that they are proposed on private property or public property, and that there is consent given to those trees being nominated. So the 3 nominations that you will review tonight are a tree stand in Hazel Grove Park, a tree stand at Tyrone S. Woods Memorial Park, and then 4 trees at the Oregon City Swimming Pool. All of these were nominated by a resident of the city who submitted a complete application that met the criteria. This is our first one to look at. This is Hazel Grove Park. The tree stand has mature white oak and Douglas firs that are generally located in the center of the park. They were inventoried as part of a 2020 development application, and that arborist report and inventory determined that they were in good to fair condition by a certified arborist. And this nomination appears to meet criteria 4. The second nomination is for a stand of trees in Tyrone S. Woods Park. And again, it's a stand of mature white oak and Douglas fir. These were also inventoried as part of a development application in November of 2019. And again, were determined to be in good to fair condition. And again, these appear to meet criteria 4 as well. And then for our last site, there were 4 trees nominated at the Oregon City Swimming Pool: a Japanese red pine, an Austrian pine, a blue Atlas cedar, and a giant sequoia. And the nomination form indicates that they are in good condition. And this nomination appears to meet criteria 3 and 4. And this next slide is the other 2 trees that were nominated. So my request of PRAC tonight is to provide an advisory opinion on whether the trees should be approved as heritage trees and tree stands. And we will forward that opinion on to the Natural Resource Committee at their meeting on May 11th. And then we are scheduled to appear before the City Commission for their review and decision on June 1st. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll stop sharing.
I have a question first, or I guess I'm going to ask for a clarification just as we have other questions in discussion, make sure we're on the same page here. When you ask for, what you say, an advisory opinion, what significance does that piece have in the process? I mean, I understand what the next step is, but what significance does our opinion have in that process?
So I think that's a great question. And I believe that the purpose of getting PRAC's advisory opinion on these 3 is because they're located in parks. And so as your purview as a Park and Recreation Advisory Committee, let's say that you were to provide an opinion that they should not be. I think that would probably mean a lot to the other commission, the committee and commission when they're making that review. It's kind of essentially like, in a way, you're the property owner. You're kind of acting on the property owner as the property owner giving your consent.
Okay, that's fair. And then just to clarify further on that, are you tonight asking for a collective advisory opinion by way of a vote, or just individual opinions of the members? How do you want that delivered to you at the end of this discussion piece?
Yeah, I believe that if we could get a collective opinion, that would be preferred. We can certainly document where there are differences if not everybody agrees. But yeah, what I am looking for is more of a consensus that I can take to the next 2 groups. Okay,
so then I guess, just a reminder then to the members of PRAC, as we have these questions that come up in discussions, we hear the answers. We'll need at the end of that to be prepared to have a vote of these 3. So Andy, I saw your hand up, but you took it down. Does that mean you still have a question, or you?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Well, at first I'd say this is actually kind of interesting, but I have no reason to not approve. So I will vote to approve, but I'm more curious of what would be a reason not to?
So that's a question for me. I take it.
To approve, I don't really see the reason not to approve. I'm kind of curious. Is it just more of an opinion that I might have that I don't like those trees, or
I think so. I mean, I think that if you felt that any of these trees didn't meet the criteria that we went over, that would be a reason to not vote to approve. If for some reason you felt like this was not a tree that made any kind of significant contribution, then
that makes sense. It seems like the most logical thing is to approve them. So, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, Ken, please.
What kind of protections are normally provided, I guess, at this point? So trees in parks, for example, are they required to get a permit for removal over a certain size? What is the advantage, I guess, of a heritage tree versus just the normal tree process? I guess is my first question.
That's a good question. I believe that if it was not a heritage tree and you wanted to remove it, there is a process to remove public trees. And so you could remove it, but you're filling out a permit application. And at this point, depending on the size of that tree, removal of publicly owned trees goes to the city commission for a decision. If it's under a certain size, then there's notice provided, and it's like a 2-week notice. And then if there are no comments, then it would come down. If trees are designated as heritage trees, there are protection measures in the code. And so I'm looking at the code right now, and the very first thing that says no heritage tree or stand may be removed, topped, or otherwise altered unless permitted by this section. So then there's kind of another process to go through to remove it if need be, and kind of a burden to demonstrate why it would need to be removed. So I'm kind of looking through the code quickly on that, but so that's, it gives it an extra level of protection.
A little extra. So so that normally they would be able to take out a tree in a park without a permit, or would a permit be required for most trees, do you think?
A permit is required.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just be like a double permit process if they were heritage trees, for example. In a sense, it's just a little bit heavier requirement.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
No, I get it.
The code a little bit,
because you have to bounce around the code a little bit to kind of figure it all out. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Steve.
Yeah, just a couple questions, if I might. Thank you, Ken. You answered one of my questions, but one of the things that occurred to me, you indicated these trees had been surveyed. I think there's these couple of these areas had been surveyed in 2020, and obviously we had a fairly substantial ice storm after that survey. Does the designation as a heritage tree limit the arborist type activities that the city would need to undertake to maintain these groves of trees? I mean, how does that get affected? Because after some kind of event like that, you could have substantial type, maybe not removal, but certainly substantial work that needs to be done to these trees to maintain the grove. So is that become substantially more challenging as a result of being designated as a heritage tree?
I don't believe so. I'd have to get back to you on that one. And maybe I can try to figure that out as we continue talking. But I think like normal maintenance would not be precluded if it's a heritage tree.
Okay.
Anything else, Steve?
No, I think that does it. Thank you.
Okay. Karen, please.
Yeah, I actually have a question to start with Dee Dee, and then I need some information from Jonathan.
So we are unable to ask Dee Dee questions. She's not part of that presentation, so she could have spoke at the community portion. But at this time, Karen, we will not be asking any questions of anybody other than Kendall.
Then let me ask Jonathan something.
Okay, yeah, Jonathan would be fine too.
The 4 trees nominated at the pool, the sequoia, I have no question about. The other 3 look to me to be newer trees, and I don't think we've ever really limited the trees to when they were planted, but to me, a heritage tree means a pioneer planted it in their yard. I don't have any issue with the 2 stands in the parks because we know that we need to preserve our white oaks and our Douglas firs. But other than the sequoia at the pool, do you have any hesitation on approving the other 3? Are those healthy trees? And that's to Jonathan.
Yeah, so for all of those of you who have been to the swimming pool and know the swimming pool site, most of those trees have been in since the pool was put there and established, and they've grown into their spaces there. I know that the walls that surround the swimming pool, the root zones are pushing up against those walls, but that is something that down the road could potentially be a problem. I also had noted that in the pictures of the pines, both of those pines received excessive damage during the ice storm. Actually, you can see it in the pictures that were taken. A lot of our tree canopy that received that damage, we're monitoring it right now. So it's kind of just a wait and see, and hopefully most of the trees will bounce out of it. I mean, two major effects were, yes, the ice storm, and 2, the heat dome that we received shortly thereafter. And so I think that you can see some of those effects on the pine trees in those pictures that were taken. But we'll continue monitoring them. We'll continue watching them. As far as the walls and the root zones pushing up against those walls, that's something that there's a lot of techniques that can be used by arborists to maybe root prune some of that back a bit and relieve some of the pressure that's up against the walls from those root zones. So otherwise, yes, I think Oregon white oaks are very significant. Most of those in the stand at Tyrone Woods took significant damage, but they all are pushing out new growth. The stands at Hazel Grove likewise took a lot of damage. So it's a really tough time right now to say, everything's going to be fine from here on out. So my crystal ball's broken. It's a bit foggy right now, but otherwise, yeah, I would agree with all the other statements made.
So are you comfortable with the new process if it turns out that one of those newer pines has become a problem, that the steps are there that would allow you to remove it?
the process has gotten much more difficult. You know, I mean, that's just the brass tacks of it all, right? So am I comfortable with the process? You know, I think overall in general, we work very closely with the planning department, and they communicate with us well, and we work together to make those go as smooth as we possibly can at this point.
Okay, so Troy, when we're there, I have a motion.
Okay, I have a motion as well, I guess. I mean, it doesn't, we can always phrase it different based on what it is, but is yours about a vote or no vote kind of thing? Is that what, or you have a different motion? You don't have to share it now, but is it about a voting or is it just a different motion?
It's about voting, but it won't be a complete approval of all three as designated.
Okay, fair enough. When we get there, I'll have you make your motion first. I think mine might be similar. So when we get there, I'll have you do yours first. Other than that, Karen, is there any other questions you have before we get to the motion portion?
That is all.
Okay, Ken, you still have your hand up. Is that because you have another question or you just forgot to take it down? You're muted as well.
Yeah, I actually reloaded my hand, so I had a new question.
All right, go ahead.
So I guess my question is, in the application, it just says that it appears that they meet criteria 4 of 12.3207-070-4, which basically means that it just kind of meets the minimum size requirements, I guess, and it doesn't really meet, or there's no discussion of any other significance or relationship to any of the other criteria. And then when I was looking at the tree eligibility size chart, the sizes are relatively small. And so kind of back to Karen's point that, you know, a heritage tree, you know, in my opinion, would be something that's maybe has a little bit more significance than, say, a 18-inch fir that, you know, we have in just about everybody's backyard almost. You know, I mean, there's just nothing special about them. You know, I get their trees and their stands and everything, but I'm concerned about potentially tying the hands of the department later on. And because even as we go through the master plan and different potential uses of properties and stuff, and I'm not suggesting it by any means that we go through and cut down trees. That's not my point, but to provide extra protection to trees that really kind of maybe just squeak through just in a size type of thing. I guess I'm concerned that there's really not anything else other than the size that really pointed those out as being significant or worthy of being a heritage tree.
Thank you, Ken. I have some thoughts around that as well, but I'll take those in a minute.
Okay.
Anything else from you, Ken, at this time?
No, thanks.
Okay, Steve, please.
Yeah, John, I'd like to ask John a question. I hate to put him on the spot, but some of the things you described there that were potential problems can be very significant in the long run. I've had some experience with that at my own home, trying to deal with some of just what you described with trees up against walls and other things. It can be extremely costly. Have you had any other experience in other areas with, I apologize if this is a silly question, but have you had some other experience trying to work your way through some of these problems with heritage trees in other areas in the city that could give us some indication of how this might work if we were to designate these trees? Because I share the concern that both Karen and Ken sort of alluded to, that we not designate some things that create major problems into the future and are not fixable if they need be, and they will need to be fixed in some cases. John, is there any, that may not be a fair question, but I ask it anyway.
Yeah, so we haven't specifically run into that situation or scenario that you discussed. It would still go through the typical process through planning, with all the permitting that would be required. There would just be probably a lot more conversation, I think, moving, if that was the direction that we were to move, if something, say, one of those pines that was showing some signs, we're to continue to decline. It has a heritage status. I'm kind of I don't know. I mean, just following the ice storm and the heat dome and everything right now, it's kind of an uncertainty of knowing, the full impacts of what that meant to our tree canopy. I was just at a conference for something very similar to this, and a lot of folks were having very, very similar situations and scenarios with trees where it's just kind of a wait and see, and hopefully they come out of this. We certainly have seen where we wanted to try and save as many trees as possible. We're holding off on anything or any steps moving forward at this time, and just kind of put them in a wait and see. So, I mean, it could be a wait and see type scenario, and just go from there.
Well, thank you, John. By way of one piece of information, I had some huge Douglas firs in my backyard, and I was told that after that ice storm, the damage that was caused to them, it could be 5 years or more before you see the real effects of that on some of these trees and how it can manifest itself. So I think we're probably a few years away even from seeing some of the impacts that may have occurred as a result of the ice storm. But I don't want anybody to think I don't want to save trees either, because that's a very important component. But I think we have to think about these things as we're looking down the road a bit.
No, exactly, and I think that's a very valid point, and that's our goal as a city, is to have a healthy, resilient stand of trees within our community. But sometimes there's factors outside of what we can control. So, yep.
Thank you. That's all I have, Troy.
Thank you, Steve. Karen, did you have other discussion, or you have your hand up for a motion?
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, before you do that, I have a couple points as part of the discussion. I have a couple things. First, and we don't need to address this, but just my thoughts. Seeing the stand of trees caught me off guard, because in the past it's always been, at least to my recollection, always been a particular tree and not a stand of trees. Of course, I can understand the value in doing it as a stand and not, individually 25 trees or 10 trees or something, a nomination to go along with each. So I can appreciate that. But as has been mentioned before, and I only say this to show my support of those comments, is, to me, a heritage designation is something special. It's something for, like Karen had mentioned, a pioneer tree, or something that has age or significance to its location, or significance to maybe who planted it, even if it is a little bit newer, or something along those lines. And I don't see that with these trees. Possibly the biggest concern I have here is, again, as has been mentioned by Steve and Ken, is as much as it sounds great to identify trees and to give the appearance that we're taking care of them and we care about them and we want to designate them, at the same time, I do not want to put our staff in a position to where we simply have created additional red tape and additional restrictions to care for them, to remove them, to do anything, to build where they are. I know these are in a park, so typically that's not going to be an issue, but I don't want to get in the habit of not being able to do what we need to do because we have trees designated that maybe one could argue if they should or shouldn't have been designated. Now, if it's one that we all agree should be, well, then we'll deal with the consequences that may come with that. So I'm prepared to not vote in favor of nominating any of these trees, but I would be in favor of postponing the vote, number one, until we get Aquila, if you can answer our question with conviction about how this is going to affect maintenance and anything else that we may want to do. And I think that maybe needs to go through legal or city manager or something where we can have a definitive, here's the answer. Then at that point, I think I'd be more willing to cast a vote. So those are my thoughts. And if there's no more discussion or comments, then we are ready for a motion if there is one.
All right. Given the fact that this came to us as 3 separate designations, I'm going to suggest 3 motions. My first motion is that we approve the stand at Hazel Grove Park. It is a heritage stand. My knowledge of, thank you, Dee Dee, what you've taught me about trees, but also things that you know. I've looked at a lot of plat maps and trees that have been here forever. So I move that we approve the stand as designated at Hazel Grove Park.
This is Steve Williams. I would second that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. And although you didn't exactly say it, Karen, I think it makes sense maybe to look at these as 3 different motions, if that's the direction we go. I think that
I
does
do
make
plan
sense.
to make 2 more motions, yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that does make sense. So we have a motion by Karen for, did you say the one at Hazel Grove? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, for the stand at Hazel Grove, and then Steve with a second. Before we vote, is there any discussion about that particular motion? I have my thoughts on that, and for the discussion phase is I will be prepared to vote no on that because I really believe we need to postpone the vote until we know exactly how this is going to affect staff's ability to do what they need to do without too much restriction. If these motions do not pass, then I will make that motion, but if they do pass, then the motion at that point will be moved. So that's my thoughts. Justin, will you poll?
Say that again, you cut out for me.
Wait, I was just asking you to poll on the motion to, Karen, correct me if I say this wrong, to approve, to nominate the stand at Hazel Grove Park, just that stand of trees.
Okay, all I heard was Hazel Grove Park, and so I was just like,
Yeah,
what?
so Karen made the motion
No.
to separate.
Okay, the motion is to approve the nomination of the stand at Hazel Grove Park as proposed.
Okay. We'll start with Andy.
I approve.
Steve,
Yes.
Ken,
No.
Troy,
No.
and Karen.
Aye.
Motion passed 3-2.
Okay.
All right. Now, next motion is to approve the stand at Tyrone Woods Park as nominated.
Okay.
Do we have a second on that one?
This is Andy. I second.
So it was Karen with the motion, Andy with the second. Justin, did you get the whole motion on that one?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Again, my thoughts will be to vote that I'll be voting no because I don't think we know the impact on how this may restrict staff to do what they need to do. Those are my thoughts. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, Justin, will you please poll?
Okay. Steve,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Karen,
Aye.
Troy,
No.
and Ken.
No.
Motion passed 3-2.
Okay,
All right, and my third motion is going to be on the pool site. I am recommending that we approve the giant sequoia for designation as a heritage tree. That's the end of that motion, and then I have something to say if I get a second.
I'll second.
All right, thank you.
Karen, before you say that, I want to ask Aquila, you had nominated, your nomination was all three. Are you okay that we separate that as we've done here, or do you need to, and again, I just don't want to disrupt the process. Do you need to somehow refer these to different, resubmit them as different nominations? Or are you okay doing it this way?
I don't believe it needs to be resubmitted. I think it's
Okay.
fine to break it apart. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Karen, go ahead.
All right, so, and Jonathan knows how I feel about our giant sequoias as we've dealt with them at the cemetery. I don't think the other three trees are old enough to be considered, and I think the city should have more ability to remove them if necessary with just notice to the public, as we found out you really need to do in this city. So that's it.
So
Steve, go ahead, please.
just a clarification, Karen, I want to understand, your motion is to make the recommendation to approve the nomination of the giant sequoia, but not the other trees in the pool area. Is that right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that piece? And I will be voting no again, just to state that for the same reasons in the past, just my concern with the restrictions on staff. If there's no other discussion, Justin, will you please poll on just the giant sequoia at the pool?
Yes, and we'll just start with you, Troy.
No.
Ken,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
Andy,
Yes.
and Karen.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-1.
Any other motions? Okay, Aquila, I believe you got most of what you asked for, so to take forward to the next step in your process.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Would you still like further clarification to come back to at a later time about the meet?
Yes, please. And I think it's appropriate, since we've already had the motion and voted and they all passed. I think Kendall, tell me if you think differently, but I think it's okay to just deliver that information to Kendall and Justin, and then just to kind of give us the answers that way. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Kendall?
that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you just want to send that over, that'd be fine. Steve?
one clarification for Aquila. Karen identified why she made her motion the way she made it, but the other thing that I'm assuming you're going to get asked, well, why did we not? At least from my perspective, the concern down at the pool about some of the very things John mentioned with regard to pressure on the buildings and other things were the reason that I accepted the motion the way it was. So I think that's an important piece of your justification when you go to the Natural Resource Committee.
Thank you. I will certainly take note of that and incorporate that into the next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aquila.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Goals. So last meeting, we talked about goals. We went over and revised them based on what we felt our completion was on each of those. And then kind of had the assignment to either send any proposed new goals or revisions to our current goals. We could have sent those by email if we wanted. I did not receive any email about that, so I assume that nobody sent those out, which is fine. So now would be a good time for us to bring forth any new goals that we'd like or any that we'd like to have removed, and then we'll vote on those changes. Okay, I want to give plenty of time. I don't want to cut anybody off. So am I understanding, and if I'm not, tell me, but am I understanding that everybody, and this is not an official vote, but just to make sure that I don't move on too fast, am I understanding that everybody, I guess I should say lack of interest of change in the goals, that everybody is wanting to keep the goals as they are, as they were revised last meeting? Can I just get a kind of a quick thumbs up just to make sure I understand? Is that what? Okay, because I want to make sure I'm cutting somebody off. But Karen, I do see you have your hand up. And you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Sorry,
That's right.
Kendall,
Yes.
where are we with city commission and being put into code?
We had the first reading at the meeting last week. The second reading will be coming up next week.
And does it address that we are still allowed to create our own goals?
It's still attached to the bylaws. It doesn't say anything about goals.
All right, I would suggest this be put off to next month and we see what is adopted when we are put into city code.
Well, at this point, we have a revision last month, and without any suggestions or requests to change anything, then the goals stand as they are. Now, if code changes, or we put in the city code, then we may be required to revisit them. But at this point, there would be no reason to revisit them if we're accepting the revisions from last month.
The original resolution actually allowed for bylaws and goals from this committee, which is unusual for a city committee. If the commission adopts, once the commission approves us into the code and approves bylaws, we need to look at that and see if that does include having our own goals. I have never been comfortable with that, and you know that. I don't see a point in further approving goals at this time until we figure out what actually goes into code once we are back in, or once we're in code, having been the only committee never having been in code.
Yeah, and I think you and I are saying the same thing. I mean, at this point, there is nothing to vote on because there is nothing changing from last month revisions that we had voted on there. So I think we're saying the same thing. If we're put into code and, you know, based on what that requires us to do, bylaws and so forth, it may require that we revisit all the bylaws. It may require that we revisit just the goal piece. And so I agree with you. If and when that happens, that would be the time to address it. But for tonight's discussion, if there's no request to change or add anything with the goals, then the discussion about the goals is over until we have reason to bring it back. So I think we're saying the same thing, just in a different way.
Yes, and I think so too. I think this is moot at this point.
Okay. Any other final comments on that? Okay. Kendall, staff reports, please.
All right, I'll kick things off. I just want to thank everyone who was able to participate in the Glaciemet Park Master Plan Open House this past Tuesday. We had a great turnout. We had over 30 people participate, 12 in person, 18 online. You may already be aware we've updated our website with the new site plan options. We also have a new survey. We're encouraging people to participate and provide feedback. We want to match the turnout that we had with the very first survey. And just a reminder, that survey does close on May 17th. So we're just encouraging people to share that information as much as possible. We really do appreciate that input. The other reminder is on May 10th, save the date. Justin will make sure that everyone has that date on their calendar. That's our joint work session with PRAC and the City Commission. That meeting's at 6 p.m. And that meeting will take place at the police station. But just remember that date. That's where we will sit down with the City Commission and go through those site options and provide feedback to the consultant. And the hope is to gather as much information as possible so we can bring that information back with a single concept. Any questions or comments about the meeting or upcoming meetings?
Is that May 10th, you said?
Yes, May 10th.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'll be out of town, so.
No.
And Kendall, for anyone who might be listening on the live stream, that survey, if you want to take that survey, it's located on the city website under the Glaciemet Park Master Plan page. Am I correct? That's
Yes.
where I found it anyway.
Yes. Our project page under the Glaciemet Park Master Plan, all that information is listed there. We'll make sure to also get it out on our social media and make sure that we get it out to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any difficulty accessing that information or needs access to the survey, please feel free to reach out to me or Justin, and we can get that information to you. All right. Want to provide an update on Hazel Grove Park. We're so close to being able to wrap up that park. Unfortunately, we're having some issues with the weather and the grass. So we're waiting for the landscape and the grass to establish. We're trying to focus on some turf repairs and improvements in anticipation of opening up the park. We're finishing up a few things on the punch list. We hope to get some sunny days and the temperatures rising so we can get that park open. But we'll keep everyone up to date on the status of that park. And hopefully in the next month, we can get that park reopened. All right, Parks Master Plan, like Neela shared, we had our first kickoff meeting with Pro Consulting. We're currently working through the project timeline, getting additional information needed for the master plan. And we're currently looking to schedule our first public engagement meeting sometime in June. We're trying to work through possible dates for that, but we're really excited about kicking off this process. And other than that, that is all I have, and I will turn it over to Melissa.
Okay. So we're gearing up for the summer. So we've got lots of stuff going on right now, especially heading into May. Our outdoor wading pool is currently getting sandblasted and recoated as we prepare for the summer. So that's a very highly utilized item during the summer. And then we currently are offering scholarships for our camps, and applications for those are accepted through May 2nd. In order for us to secure, we open up our registration on May 13th. So we want to make sure that we have enough time to get everyone their funds in order to use them towards the camp registration. We're also accepting applications for our junior camp counselor program. It originally was going to close April 30th, but we're extending it through May 20th. You guys saw that we're getting new registration software with SmartRec, and the first things we're going to do, we've got our camp registration, like I said, opens May 13th, and our swim lesson registration opens up on May 20th. And we're really excited. We're going to be able to offer full programming with our swimming lessons this summer. And then you guys will be seeing for concerts in the park and movies in the park, you'll start seeing flyers and advertising out for those within the next couple of weeks as we get those in from publications. And then we will be out in the public a few times this month. We'll be at the Oregon City Farmers Market on May 7th, getting information out to the public about scholarships and programming that is taking place this summer, as well as May 14th, we'll be at the resource fair with community education, getting all that information out to people. And then that's the end of my list.
Don't forget about the daddy-daughter dance.
Yeah, I always think about the future. We had the daddy-daughter dinner dance last Friday, and it was a huge success. It was really great to bring that event back. We haven't been able to do it the last couple of years. And it was at full registration, and everyone was just, thrilled to be there and be able to have it. And it was a lot of return attendees from previous years. So it was fun to see everybody.
For curiosity, how many people do you get?
162 is how many we had.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. We usually open it up for 160. But we had 159, and there was someone that wanted to register with a couple daughters. So we ended up extending it.
Very cool.
All right. Thanks, Melissa. Kathy?
Oh, look, I get to go second. Thanks, Kendall. Oh, wait, I gotta fix this. He doesn't like it when I don't do my video right. So we're looking behind into March because we didn't talk about our closure, and every spring break we close the Pioneer Center for our annual cleaning. And this year I think we removed about 300 pounds of moss off of the bricks and the sidewalks and the sides of the building. So that took 5 days of power washing. Our bus driver, John, did that. So we really appreciate his hard work on doing that every day for a week. We also paint the interior of the building. We do all the touch-up paint throughout the building, and we repainted the stage area. My staff does a deep cleaning. We touch up carpets, do carpet cleaning. We scrub all the floors, the tables, chairs, the garbage cans, all of that. We make sure the equipment is serviced, and my staff also does a first aid CPR training day. I think it's important for Prac to note how important that is, that we've done that annual cleaning during spring break. We had a consultant come by that's working with us, and the first thing he asked was how much money we have in our capital improvement budget. And when I told him none, he wanted to know how this building was in such good shape, and he was impressed with how attractive it is and well kept. And it really is a testament to the dedication of the staff that works here. And I just really have to appreciate their hard work and dedication for, in particular, that week of heavy cleaning, because it's hard work and it's physically intensive, and they really deserve a great deal of our appreciation. Let's see, we are at maximum capacity with our Meals on Wheels right now. We're at 130 clients. So we're at capacity with a wait list. And as clients go off, we put new clients on. We've started hot meals twice a week. So we are doing indoor in-service dining. So our dining room is open 2 days a week for our congregate program, and then 2 days a week we're transitioning from frozen meals to hot meals for Meals on Wheels. We would expand that, but everyone seems to be getting COVID, so we're rotating volunteers and staff. So we're sort of holding the line until we get more support with getting additional days that we can deliver hot meals. We're learning Smart Rec here. It's slow and steady because I like paper. And Kevin has been incredibly patient, and Melissa has been incredibly helpful in bringing us into the current century of technology. So they deserve a lot of credit because we fight hard on not having our paper. We are pretty full with our programs, and it's been a challenge with we're at half staff really, so we're doing a lot of hiring. Justin has been a tremendous support to us. Kendall has been a lot of support to us. This would not be, we wouldn't be functioning without as much support as we're getting through the department. John has been here making sure the grounds look good and planting flowers. They just magically appear. So I appreciate that. We've had some tree replacements. So everybody's really been helping a lot with the Pioneer Center. And I just want to say thank you and have Prac realize that the Parks Department's been really sort of helping hold us up. So they deserve a lot of credit. So that's it.
Thanks, Kathy. John?
Yeah, so you know, I want to kudos on what Kathy said. You know, we really do. I was watching today and looking out there and thinking of all the things that we're working on and getting done, and I'm just always so impressed with how amazing of a staff we have and everything that we get done on a day in, day out basis. So but I also wanted to thank Prac as well, because I've been seeing a lot of Prac members out in the community and out at activities. We did hold Arbor Day, April 1st at Chapin Park. So it was a really great event. We helped work with our community development department and hosted the Arbor Day event where we planted a new oak tree at Chapin Park and saw a few Prac members there. So really appreciative for your guys' support and being there for us. We also did the Hazel Grove walkthrough, and it was really enjoyable. Steve had mentioned that he really enjoyed getting to be in there and getting to see the park before it opens. And you know, there was quite a few of you there, so really appreciate that, and seeing several of you at the master planning process. So thank you to you guys for all of your dedication and work that you're putting in to help you know, influence and improve our community. We just held the cleanup at Mountain View Cemetery, and we had about 30 JROTC high school students from Oregon City High School. Absolutely wonderful event. It went great. The weather held out for us, and we were able to get lots of work done, including cleaning up flower beds, bark dusting around the Veterans Memorial and the memorial for the parents of murdered children. Cleaning out a lot of branch that are still down. They're kind of hiding in some of the flower beds or back in the deep dark areas of the cemetery. So just an absolutely wonderful community event today, working with the kids, and they did fantastic. Something that I wanted to discuss is this Sunday we're going to be holding a cleanup event at Glaciemet Park with the Sportsman's Warehouse, which is down off of 82nd. We're fortunate enough to have the store manager be an Oregon City resident, and each year they identify a park that they want to come in and help improve, and they had identified Glaciemet Park, so we were in touch with the store manager, and we're going to be doing some picnic table painting, maybe some pressure washing, some horseshoe pit improvements, mulch, bark dust, those types of things, just trying to improve the park and making things look better. So that is from 8 to 2. Love to see you guys there on Sunday, but understand too that you guys have busy schedules. So just another great event. that's going to be going on. We also had the Great Shred event down at the end of the Oregon Trail. Always very successful and takes multiple departments to help pull that off. So love seeing multiple departments within our city working together to make these events happen. Other than that, I can tell you all that if any of you are fishermen, it's a great time to get out there because the river is absolutely slammed with boats. The fishing is some of the best that we've seen in a really long time. And so Sportcraft and John Storm and that whole area down there is really receiving a lot of heavy use. We're having to check those sites on a daily basis just to keep up with everybody who's down there enjoying themselves and using our facilities. So it's great to see within our community. So that's all I've got for tonight. Just want to thank you all. And
All right, thanks, John. And that completes our update.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So we've got last two items would be member reports and future agenda items. So as a reminder, you do not have to have a report. A report is simply that, not time for discussion or requests, but just tell us what you did or what you've seen and that we need to know about. If you don't have a report, that's okay. We'll move to future agenda items where we will have the opportunity to bring up things that we want on the agenda in the future. So does anybody have a report to deliver? Karen, looks like you do.
Yeah, just a couple. Adding to Jonathan's report, the Oregon City Women's Club took over the Great Shred event this year. Chris Wadsworth, who had worked for the city for many years and is like fourth generation City of Oregon City employee from the cemetery, is our incoming president at the Oregon City Women's Club. And she worked with our fundraising committee to set up the Great Shred event. So kudos to Chris. And I have two things, and I agree with Troy. This is not the time to get into discussion, but two things I think I'd like to hear more about next month. As I did my homework finally today, to see that one suggestion for the new restroom at the cemetery is to finally tear down the condemned garage that has been condemned for many, many years and put it up at the level of the upper parking lot. That was news to me, but I think it's a really good idea. If we haven't moved ahead by next month, I'd like to hear more about that. And I also understood that the Pioneer Center needed some assistance with their wonderful community garden, but I haven't heard anything specific about if they're looking for volunteers, if they want a group to take charge. I'd like to hear more about what Kathy needs.
Those future agenda items we're waiting on. We're just doing the report right now, Karen. We'll get the future agenda items next.
I just kind of got them all squeezed in, Troy.
Okay, well, and I appreciate that, but not at all appropriate. We need to follow the agenda as written. So Ken, do you have a report for us?
I'm done.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank staff for inviting us to the Arbor Day celebration at Chapin Park. I had a blast. We planted probably, it looked like some of the bigger trees that we managed to have to deal with, but our little group got 9 really nice sized trees planted and had a great time. And one of the things that I retired from, I was a certified arborist for more years than I care to remember right now, but it was really a blast to get back in, and I really enjoyed planting trees and meeting a lot of new people. So just thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Steve, you have a report for us?
I do. I just want to follow up on one of Kendall's reports on the Glaciemet Park Master Plan. I concur that it was a success. I I had honestly hoped there might be a few more people attend, given the fact that there were over 500 responses to the survey. But as public meetings go on a busy night, when a lot of things are going on, I guess it was a pretty good turnout. I think that for those of you who haven't taken the time to look at the options that the consultant put together, a pretty impressive array and diversity of options that are there. So I think it's something that I would certainly encourage people to take a look at and get involved in, because that is one of our premier parks and properties in this area. So
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Next item is future agenda items. Does anybody have any future agenda items they'd like? Steve, please.
Troy, you can tell me where this fits, but I'd like to get an update on the status of the old Kanema Park, where it's at. And as we always ask, if there's anything new on the status of Sportcraft, I'd like to have that brought up next month as well.
Kendall, would it be appropriate for those to be in your staff report, or do you have other information that might indicate we need to have separate discussions or presentations on those?
It would be appropriate to put it in my staff report.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you. Karen, you had some of the future agenda items. Now would be the time to get those out.
Okay, you got them both previously. The community garden at the Pioneer Center and whatever else it was I said earlier.
Well, if you say it now, we'll get
That's
it on.
my
If it's
bad
from
time.
before, there's no guarantee. If you think of it, email, but
It's in the minutes.
okay, but I need you to understand, we need to follow the agenda. That's what our public desires of us. And if we don't follow the agenda, then there's no guarantee that things are going to get caught. So I'm going to ask you to respect the agenda and the needs of the community and follow the lead that I'm trying to give here.
Right.
Anything
Thank you
else
very much.
for future
Enough.
agenda items at all? Okay, then our next meeting is May 10th. Kendall, go ahead, please.
I just want to remind everyone in regards to agenda topics, if you have additional topics that you like to have presented, feel free to email them to me and Troy. There's still an opportunity for you to get those topics addressed. The other thing too is we may address some of those topics within our monthly staff reports, as opposed to presenting them in the meeting. We may address some of the things in our staff reports during the meeting, but I just want you to be aware of the other options that you have if things do come up and you want them to be future agenda items. You can email those to us as well.
Thank you. And Justin did a great job of putting a note for me, and then I just skipped right over it. I apologize. So Kendall, thanks for catching that. Steve, you had a
well, I just have one clarification, or at least information for me. Our meeting on May 10th, the joint meeting, I guess it's not clear to me how that's going to work. Is there what's the objective and what's our role in that joint meeting?
So the role in that joint meeting is to be alongside the city commission and provide input on the site plan options. Just to make sure that your voices are heard, that you can listen to feedback from the city commission and provide feedback. So that's the goal.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
okay. And that is May 10th, and that's at 7 p.m. So, and that is our meeting adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
I had written that down, Troy. It was said earlier it was at 6 p.m. Is it 7 p.m. or 6 p.m.?
It's 6.
It's
6. Thank you. 6 o'clock.
I'll make the edit and then I'll send out the calendar invite.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.